The great ring of celestial station spun slowly against the backdrop of glittering stars. Jack Morrison stared out the viewport as the diplomatic shuttle approached the massive structure. After 15 years as Earth's ambassador to the Galactic Council, he had never seen security so tight. Defense satellites formed a web around the station, and patrol ships zipped between them like nervous insects. "We're being scanned again," said Olivia Nelson, looking up from her datapad. The science advisor's face reflected blue light from the screen. "Third time since we entered the approach vector." Jack nodded. "They're scared." Peter Garcia, a stocky man with watchful eyes, joined them at the viewport. "Can't blame them. 3 council members have withdrawn their delegations in the past month. The preservationists are threatening to pull out completely." 500 years of galactic peace, Jack said quietly, all coming apart at the seams. The shuttle docked with a soft thud. Jack gathered his team. Olivia with her scientific expertise, Peter handling security, and Susan White, their cultural specialist. Susan's gray eyes were focused on the door, her hand unconsciously touching the translator at her throat. "Remember," Jack said, "we represent all of humanity today. The Council has never been this divided. Every word matters." The airlock hissed open. A tall, blue-skinned Centaurian waited for them. 4 arms crossed over his chest in the formal greeting gesture. "Ambassador Morrison, the emergency session begins in 1 hour. I am Volmar, Council Security Director." "Director," Jack replied with a respectful nod. "This is my team." Volmar's secondary eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of stress Jack had learned to recognize. "Follow me. The situation has worsened since your departure from Earth." They walked through curved corridors where representatives of 24 species hurried past. Jack noticed how they clustered by faction. Preservationists in their flowing robes keeping distance from the more colorful attire of the progressives. The neutrals moved between them, increasingly uncomfortable in their middle position. Volmar led them to the human embassy, a modest section compared to the grand chambers of founding species. Inside, Jack activated the privacy field before turning to Volmar. "What happened?" "Trading Outpost 17 was attacked yesterday, completely destroyed. Over 300 dead, including representatives from 12 species." Susan gasped. Olivia immediately pulled up data on her pad. Peter's hand moved closer to his concealed sidearm. "The Araxians are blaming Earth," Volmar continued. "They claim human military technology was detected." Jack's face hardened. "That's impossible. We have no ships in that sector." "Evidence has already been presented to the Council. The Araxian ambassador Salan is pushing for sanctions against Earth. Some are calling for your expulsion from the Council." Olivia looked up from her data. "This doesn't make sense. Why would Earth attack a neutral outpost?" "To create chaos," Peter suggested. "But it wasn't us." Jack paced the room. "The preservationists have opposed Earth's membership from the beginning. The Araxians particularly. The progressives will support you," Volmar said. "But the neutrals are wavering. Without them." The warning chimes sounded through the embassy. The emergency session would begin soon. "We need more information," Jack said. "Olivia, analyze everything we have on the attack. Peter, contact Earth Command for verification of all ship positions. Susan, talk to your cultural contacts. See what the unofficial channels are saying." His team moved with practiced efficiency. Volmar stepped closer. "Ambassador, be careful. In 5 centuries, I have never seen the Council this close to collapse." Jack straightened his jacket. "Then we'll make sure it doesn't. Humanity didn't come all this way to watch galactic civilization tear itself apart." They entered the Great Council chamber minutes later. 27 delegation pods arranged in concentric rings, each representing a spacefaring civilization. At the center stood the ancient speaking platform where truth was meant to prevail. As Jack took his seat, the Araxian delegation entered. Ambassador Salan, skin like polished amber, fixed Jack with 6 unblinking eyes. The Araxian made a subtle gesture, drawing a line across his throat. a human gesture of threat that chilled Jack's blood. How did the oldest pacifist species in the Council know such a gesture? The session began with the sound of the harmony bell. But Jack knew there would be no harmony today. Only accusations, fear, and the growing shadow of a threat beyond what any of them understood. The council chamber erupted into chaos after the Araxian delegation presented their evidence. Holographic images of the destroyed outpost floated above the center platform, rotating slowly to show the devastation from all angles. Ambassador Zelen's voice cut through the noise. The energy signature is unmistakable. Human weapons technology, he said. His 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a sign of supreme confidence among his kind. We call for immediate sanctions against Earth. Jack Morrison stood in the human delegation pod, waiting for the noise to subside. When he spoke, his voice was calm but firm. Earth denies any involvement in this tragedy. We request time to conduct our own investigation. The session ended in an impasse. The preservationists, led by the Araxians, walked out in protest when the council voted to allow Earth 48 hours to respond to the accusations. Back in the human embassy, Jack gathered his team around a secure holodeble. "They're lying," Peter said, slamming his fist on the table. "Those energy readings were faked." Olivia nodded. "The patterns don't match any known human weapon, but they've been altered just enough to fool most of the council's scientists." "We need proof," Jack said. "Someone who witnessed the attack firsthand." Susan looked up from her pad. "I might have something. A human merchant was in the sector when the attack happened. His ship is docked at the lower ring right now." "Find him," Jack ordered. 3 hours later, a weathered man with graying hair sat across from them in a private meeting room. His eyes darted nervously toward the door. "Alan Ford," he introduced himself, "captain of the trading vessel North Star, and I shouldn't be talking to you." "You were at Outpost 17, Jack said. "We need to know what you saw." Alan's hands trembled slightly. "I was making a delivery when my sensors picked up ships entering the system, not human ships, not like anything I've seen before." "Did you record them?" Olivia asked eagerly. "Better." Alan pulled out a small data crystal. "I was doing a full sensor sweep for mineral deposits. Caught everything." Olivia took the crystal and inserted it into her analyzer. The holodeble displayed the attack in brutal detail. Silent ships with organic-looking hulls firing weapons that seemed to bend light itself. "These aren't human ships," Peter said. "They're not even using normal propulsion systems." Olivia zoomed in on one of the vessels. "Look at the hull pattern." Susan gasped. "That's Araxian script. Ancient form, but I recognize the symbols." Jack stared at the evidence. "The Araxians attacked their own outpost to frame us." "But why?" Peter asked. "What do they gain?" "The question is what they lose if they don't act now," Jack said. "Earth has grown too quickly. Our technology is advancing faster than any species in Council history." Alan shifted uncomfortably. "There's more. After the attack, I followed one of the ships. It rendezvoused with a vessel I did recognize, a neutral diplomatic courier. Someone in the neutral faction is working with the Araxians," Jack said. "We need to find out who." A soft chime interrupted them. Volmar's voice came through the secure channel. "Ambassador Morrison, the Progressives leader has called an emergency private meeting. 1 hour, Blue Section, Chamber 12. After Alan left with a promise of protection, the team prepared to move. "I don't like this," Peter said, checking his weapon. "Blue Section is nearly deserted during rest cycle." "We can't ignore it," Jack replied. "If the Progressives are willing to help us, we need them." They took separate routes to avoid attention. Jack arrived first, finding the chamber door slightly open. He hesitated, then pushed it wider. Inside, Progressive leader Delegate Korith lay on the floor, a smoking wound in his chest. His forelegs were curled in death, mandibles frozen in a silent scream. Jack reached for his communicator, but a sound made him turn. 3 Council security officers, not Volmar's people, entered with weapons drawn. "Human Ambassador Jack Morrison," one said flatly, "you are under arrest for the assassination of Delegate Korith." Through his shock, Jack realized with terrible clarity. This was no longer about politics. Someone wanted the council to collapse, and humanity was being set up to take the fall. In the shadows outside the chamber, hidden cameras recorded everything, feeding images directly to a private terminal where 6 Araxian eyes watched with cold satisfaction. Jack sat in a small detention cell, the blue force field humming softly across the entrance. 24 hours had passed since his arrest. The cell was clean and minimally furnished. The council prided itself on humane treatment, but a cage was still a cage. The field shimmered as Volmar appeared outside. "I have only 5 minutes," the Centaurian said, his voice low. "The entire human delegation is being questioned. Your team maintains your innocence." "What's happening in the council?" Jack asked. "Emergency session in 2 hours. The Araxians are pushing for immediate expulsion of Earth. The evidence against you is convincing." Jack moved closer to the field. "It's all fabricated. I was set up. Korith was already dead when I arrived." "I believe you," Volmar said. "But belief isn't proof." He glanced down the corridor before continuing. "Your science advisor found something interesting in the station's systems. Just before Korith's death, all security cameras in Blue Section experienced a 3-minute loop." "Someone with high-level access," Jack said. Volmar nodded. "I'm working on getting you access to the council for the emergency session. You deserve to face your accusers." After Volmar left, Jack paced the cell. His mind raced through options, trying to find a way out of this trap. The force field flickered again. This time Peter stood outside, flanked by 2 council guards. "Ambassador, we're escorting you to the council chamber," Peter said formally, though his eyes conveyed a different message. As they walked, Peter whispered, "Susan accessed the archives, found something big. Olivia is working on the data from Alan's ship. Stay strong." The council chamber had changed. The delegation pods were now arranged in judgment formation, with the human pod isolated in the center. Jack stood alone while his accusers surrounded him. Ambassador Salan rose first. "Honored representatives, the evidence is clear. Humanity first attacked a neutral outpost, then assassinated our progressive colleague when he discovered proof of their involvement. Holographic evidence appeared. Manipulated images showing Jack at Outpost 17 during the attack, false communication logs, and finally, security footage of Jack entering Korith's chamber." Jack waited for the Araxian to finish. When he spoke, his voice carried to every corner of the chamber. "Distinguished members of the council, I stand before you accused of crimes I did not commit. Earth has always honored the principles of this council. We seek the truth, which is why I ask you to examine this." Jack nodded to Peter, who activated a small device. New holographic images appeared. Alan Ford's sensor readings showing the actual attackers. "These are the ships that destroyed Outpost 17, Jack said. "Notice the markings." Murmurs spread through the chamber as representatives recognized the ancient Araxian symbols. Ambassador Salan's skin flushed a deeper amber. Fabrications, desperate attempts to shift blame. "And what of this?" Jack continued. A new image appeared, security footage showing 3 Araxian assistants entering Blue Section minutes before Korith's death. "This footage was deleted from council records," Jack said, "but not before my team recovered it." Chaos erupted in the chamber. The Araxian delegation conferred frantically while other representatives demanded explanations. Salan raised all 4 arms, his voice cutting through the noise. "These humans have manipulated council systems. This proves their guilt." An elderly representative from the quantum synthetics rose. "I move for a full investigation by a neutral party before any judgment is rendered." Voting lights flickered across the chamber. The motion passed by a single vote. Salan's eyes fixed on Jack with naked hatred. "You have delayed the inevitable, human, but not for long." As the session ended, Volmar approached Jack. You'll be returned to detention while the investigation proceeds. We need access to the deep archives, Jack whispered. Susan found references to something called the Purge from 3 centuries ago, something the Araxians want buried. Volmar's eyes widened slightly. I'll do what I can. But be careful, the Araxians have allies everywhere. As Jack was led away, he saw Ambassador Salan conferring with representatives from 3 supposedly neutral species. Their body language confirmed his worst fears. The conspiracy extended far beyond the Araxians. The Galactic Council wasn't just fracturing. It was being systematically dismantled from within. 3 days passed with Jack and his team under close watch. They were allowed to remain in the human embassy, but with limited access to station systems. Guards stood outside their door at all hours. The investigation is a sham, Peter said, keeping his voice low despite the privacy field they had activated. The Araxians have already bought off half the investigators. Olivia looked up from her datapad. I've been studying the sensor data from Alan's ship, the energy signatures of those weapons. They're like nothing in our records. What about the archives? Jack asked Susan. She shook her head. Still locked out. But Volmar sent me this. She slid a small data chip across the table. He risked a lot to get it to us. Jack inserted the chip into a secure reader. Ancient text scrolled across the screen. Records from the early days of the Council. As they read, their faces grew pale. The Purge wasn't just an event, Susan whispered. It was an entire civilization. The Solarians. I've never heard of them, Peter said. No one has, Susan replied. Because the Araxians erased them from history. The file contained fragmentary records of a highly advanced species that once occupied a significant portion of the galaxy. The Solarians had refused to join the early council, warning about Araxian influence. Within 50 years, they were gone. Their worlds declared uninhabitable due to a supposed natural disaster. The Solarians knew something about the Araxians, Jack said. Something dangerous enough that the Araxians wiped them out. A soft tone indicated an incoming message. The wall screen activated, showing Volmar's face. Ambassador, the investigation has concluded. The vote on Earth's expulsion happens tomorrow. You need to leave. Now. Leave? Jack asked. We haven't been cleared. The evidence you presented has been declared inadmissible. The Council Security Chief, my superior, has been replaced with an Araxian loyalist. They're coming for you within the hour. Jack looked at his team. Where can we go? There's a merchant ship leaving for the outer systems. The captain owes me a favor. Pack only what you need. The screen went dark. It's Alan, Peter said. It has to be. 30 minutes later, they slipped through maintenance corridors, avoiding the main passageways. Volmar had provided security codes that let them bypass most checkpoints. They reached the lower docking ring just as alarms began to sound throughout the station. They've discovered we're gone, Jack said. Alan Ford waited by his ship, looking nervous. Hurry up. I can't stay docked much longer without raising suspicion. Once aboard, Alan sealed the airlock and rushed to the cockpit. The engines hummed to life. Where are we going? Jack asked, strapping into a seat as the ship detached from the station. Nowhere on any official charts, Alan replied, his hands moving quickly over the controls. A place I found years ago. Should be safe for a while. The North Star accelerated away from Celestial Station. On the view screen, they could see Council security vessels beginning to pursue. Can they catch us? Olivia asked. Alan grinned. Not a chance. I've made some modifications. The ship lurched as Alan activated systems that weren't on any registry. The pursuing vessels fell behind, then disappeared as the North Star entered an unusual form of faster-than-light travel. What is this technology? Olivia asked, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. Found it in an abandoned outpost years ago, Alan said. Never registered it, of course. That would raise too many questions. Hours later, They emerged near a small, unremarkable moon orbiting a gas giant in an uninhabited system. "Welcome to my backup plan," Alan said. "No one comes here. No resources worth mining. No strategic value." As they approached the moon, a hidden hangar opened in what had appeared to be solid rock. "You've been preparing for something like this," Jack said as they landed. "Why?" Alan's expression turned grim. "Because I found something else at that abandoned outpost. Something about the Araxians." He pointed to a sealed container in the cargo hold. Records that weren't completely destroyed. Records from the Solarian civilization. Jack and his team exchanged shocked glances. The answers they sought might be within reach, if they could stay alive long enough to find them. Alan's hidden base was surprisingly comfortable. Built into the moon's surface, it had living quarters, a small medical facility, and a well-equipped command center. Screens displayed news from across Council space. "Earth has been officially expelled from the Council," Susan said, watching the broadcast. "Our colonies are being given 30 days to evacuate Council territories." Jack paced the room. "We need to understand what we're dealing with. Alan, show us what you found." Alan opened the container he had brought from his ship. Inside was a collection of strange crystalline devices with organic-looking connections. "Solarian data storage," he explained. "Took me years to figure out how to access them." He connected one crystal to a specialized reader. The screens filled with flowing symbols and images. "This is their language," Susan said, studying the patterns. "Similar to ancient scripts I've studied, but far more complex." Olivia joined her. "The data structure is unlike anything I've seen. It's not binary or trinary. It's living mathematics." They worked through the night, Susan translating while Olivia extracted the data. Peter maintained security, watching for any sign their hiding place had been discovered. Jack coordinated their efforts, piecing together the fragments of information. By morning, they had their first breakthrough. "The Solarians were xenobiologists," Susan said, her eyes red from lack of sleep. "They specialized in understanding other species." Olivia displayed a series of biological scans. They studied the Araxians extensively. And what they found was disturbing. The screens showed Araxian physiology, not the humanoid forms the Council knew, but something far different. "They're parasites," Olivia explained. "The forms we see are hosts, controlled by a secondary organism attached to the nervous system." "That doesn't make sense," Peter said. "The Araxians are founding members of the Council. They've been known for 5 centuries. Longer," Susan corrected. "According to these records, they'd been around for thousands of years. They move slowly, infiltrating civilizations over generations." Jack studied the data. "Why? What do they want?" "They feed on conflict," Olivia said. "Not physically, but neurologically. They absorb energy released during suffering, fear, and war." "They're farmers," Alan said grimly. "And we're the crop." A proximity alarm interrupted them. A small ship was approaching the moon. Peter activated the defense systems. "How did they find us?" "They didn't," Alan said, checking the identification signal. "It's Volmar. Alone." They met the Centaurian at the hangar. He looked exhausted, his blue skin pale from stress. "The Council is falling apart," he said once they were inside. 3 more species have withdrawn. The Araxians have declared martial law on Celestial Station." "How did you find us?" Jack asked. "I placed a tracker on the data chip I gave you. I needed insurance." Volmar looked at the screens displaying the Solarian data. "You found it. The truth about them." "You knew?" Susan asked. "I suspected. In the Centaurian archives, there are legends of shape-shifting beings who feed on war. Most consider them myths. We need to get this information to the remaining Council members," Jack said. "Too dangerous," Volmar replied. "The Araxians control all official channels now, but there's another option." He projected a star map. "These coordinates, the edge of known space." "What's there?" Jack asked. According to very old Centaurian records, it's where the last Silurians fled before their worlds were destroyed. Silence fell over the room as they considered the implications. "You think some survived?" Susan finally asked. "It's possible. The records suggest they had technology far beyond what even the Araxians possessed." Alan studied the coordinates. "That's a 3-week journey through unmapped space. Dangerous. More dangerous than staying here." Peter asked. "The Araxians will never stop looking for us." Jack looked at each member of his team, then at Volmar and Alan. They were now fugitives, hunted by the most powerful beings in the galaxy. But they also had something the Araxians feared: the truth. "We leave in 6 hours," Jack decided. "Gather everything we know about the Silurians and the Araxians. If there are survivors out there, we need to find them before the Araxians realize what we're doing." As they prepared for the journey, emergency broadcasts reported new conflicts erupting throughout Council space. The carefully maintained peace of 5 centuries was unraveling, exactly as the Araxians wanted. The journey through unmapped space proved harder than expected. Twice they had to hide from Araxian patrol ships. Once they barely escaped an ambush at a refueling outpost. The North Star sustained damage to its main drive, forcing Alan to make repairs while drifting between systems. 2 more days, Alan announced on the 20th day of their journey. "Assuming the coordinates are accurate." Jack nodded, looking at the tired faces of his team. The small ship wasn't designed for long voyages, and tensions were running high. "What if there's nothing there?" Peter asked, voicing the fear they all shared. "What if the Silurians are truly extinct?" "Then we find another way," Jack said firmly. "Earth is still fighting. Our colonies haven't surrendered." Susan looked up from her study of the Silurian data crystals. "I think I understand why the Araxians fear humans specifically." Everyone turned to her. The Silurians discovered that human brains produce unique electrical patterns. Patterns that disrupt the Araxian feeding process. Olivia's eyes widened. "That's why they've opposed Earth's membership from the beginning. We're indigestible." "And dangerous," Susan added. "The records suggest extended exposure to humans can weaken Araxian control over their hosts." "No wonder they wanted us gone," Jack said. "We're not just resistant. We're a threat to their entire system." A warning light flashed on the ship's console. Ellen rushed to check it. "Someone's scanning us," he said. "Advanced technology, nothing like Council standard." Tension filled the cockpit as they waited, weapons ready. Then the communication system activated without their input. A face appeared on the screen, humanoid but with silver-flecked skin and eyes that seemed to shift color. "Visitors," the being said in a melodious voice. "Unexpected but not unwelcome. You carry Silurian data crystals." Jack stepped forward. "We do. We seek the Silurians, if any survived." The being studied them silently. "Humans," it finally said. "The resistant ones. Follow the beacon now being transmitted to your ship. Any deviation will be considered hostile." The screen went dark. "Beacon received," Alan confirmed. "Should we follow it?" "Do we have a choice?" Peter asked. The beacon led them through a complex asteroid field to what appeared to be a dead moon. As they approached, the surface shimmered and revealed a massive hangar entrance. "Holographic camouflage," Olivia whispered. "Incredibly advanced." They landed inside the hangar, which sealed behind them. The air pressure normalized, and a door opened in the far wall. The silver-skinned being waited there, flanked by others of similar appearance. "I am Eridu," the being said, "last council elder of the Silurian Enclave." Jack introduced himself and his team. Eridu led them through corridors of what appeared to be living crystal to a chamber filled with technology beyond their understanding. "We have monitored the galaxy since our retreat," Eridu explained. "The Araxians believe they destroyed us, but we had prepared this sanctuary decades before their final attack." "Why didn't you fight back?" Peter asked. "Your technology clearly surpasses theirs." "We are scientists, not warriors," Eridu replied. and the Araxians had already infiltrated too many worlds. Open conflict would have caused billions of deaths. And now, Jack asked, the galaxy is falling into exactly that, open conflict. Eridu's color-shifting eyes focused on Jack. Now we have you. Humans possess what we lack: resistance to Araxian influence and the will to fight. Eridu touched a crystal panel, and the chamber filled with holographic displays of council space. Red areas showed conflict zones, spreading like a disease across the galaxy. The Araxians have accelerated their plans since discovering your immunity. They fear humans will spread throughout the galaxy, making more areas indigestible to them. We need to warn Earth, Jack said, and any council species still free of Araxian control. Communications from here would be detected, Eridu said, but we have something better. The wall opened to reveal a sleek ship unlike any they had seen before. A Solarian vessel, Eridu explained, with a full database of our research on Araxian weaknesses. You're giving this to us? Olivia asked, amazed. Not giving, Eridu corrected, joining. It is time for the Solarians to emerge from hiding. Together, we may have a chance against the Harvesters. For the first time since fleeing the Council, Jack felt real hope. They weren't alone anymore. The fight was just beginning. The Solarian ship cut through space like nothing Jack had ever experienced. No vibrations, no sense of movement. Just stars blurring outside the viewports as they traveled faster than any Council vessel could manage. Eridu had joined them, along with 5 other Solarian scientists. In the ship's command center, they planned their return to Council space. Earth has assembled its defense fleet here, Jack said, pointing to a holographic map. But they're outnumbered by the Council forces loyal to the Araxians. We've made contact with sympathizers from 7 species, Volmar added. They're willing to help but lack coordination. Eridu studied the map. The Araxians control Celestial Station. From there, they can monitor all official communications. Then we need to take back the station, Peter said. Impossible through direct attack, Eridu replied, but perhaps not impossible through other means. The Solarian touched a crystal control, and a hologram shifted to show detailed scans of an Araxian host body. The parasite connects here, at the base of the brain, Eridu explained. It creates a field that disrupts normal thought patterns, making the host susceptible to control. Olivia leaned forward, and human brainwaves interfere with this field. Yes, we've developed a device that can amplify human brain patterns and broadcast them. At close range, it will temporarily disrupt Araxian control. How close? Jack asked. You would need to be on the station itself, Eridu said, and the effect will last only minutes. Jack looked at his team. Minutes might be enough. If we can reach the Council communication hub and broadcast the truth about the Araxians. The station will be heavily guarded, Peter warned. Not everywhere, Susan said. The maintenance sections, the waste processing areas, places the elite Araxians would never go. Elen nodded. I know those sections well. Used them many times to move goods without proper inspection. Then we have our way in, Jack said, but we'll need help. Over the next 2 days, the Solarian ship traveled across Council space, making brief stops to collect representatives from species sympathetic to their cause. A progressive delegate who had escaped the purges, a quantum synthetic scientist, a Meridian trader captain with a fleet of small, fast ships. Each brought valuable resources and information. Each had seen their people manipulated by Araxian influence. We have 12 hours before we reach Celestial Station, Jack told the assembled allies. Our plan has 3 parts. He outlined the strategy. First, their allied ships would create a diversion, drawing away the station's defensive fleet. Second, Jack's team would infiltrate the station through the maintenance sections, carrying the Solarian device. Finally, once they reached the communication hub, they would broadcast the truth about the Araxians throughout Council space. If we succeed, Jack said, The controlled species will see their masters for what they truly are. And if we fail, asked the progressive delegate, then Earth stands alone against the Araxians, Jack replied, and eventually falls. As they made final preparations, Eridu approached Jack privately. There is something you should know, the Solarian said. The device we've created. Its power source is unstable. Using it at full strength may have consequences for the user. What consequences? Jack asked. Neural damage, possibly permanent. Jack was silent for a moment. Does it need to be a human? Yes. Only a human brain can generate the necessary patterns. Jack nodded slowly. I understand. The alarm signaled their approach to Celestial Station. On the view screen, the massive ring structure came into view, surrounded by council ships. Communications coming in from Earth forces, Susan announced. They're in position and await our signal. From the Meridian Fleet as well, Volmar added. All ready. Jack looked at each face in the command center. Human, Solarian, and allies from across the galaxy. Against all odds, they had built a coalition. Whether it would be enough remained to be seen. Send the signal, Jack ordered. Let's take back the council. Outside, the first explosions flashed as the battle began. Chaos surrounded Celestial Station as Allied ships engaged the Araxian fleet. Using the confusion as cover, Jack's team approached in a small maintenance vessel borrowed from Alan's merchant contacts. Security grid is focused on the main battle, Olivia reported. We have a clear path to access Point 7. The team consisted of Jack, Peter, Olivia, Susan, Volmar, and Eridu. They wore simple worker uniforms, with the Solarian device hidden in a standard repair kit. Eridu had used a temporary skin treatment to appear human. Remember, Jack said, we have one shot at this. Get to the communication hub, activate the device, and broadcast the evidence. They docked at a small maintenance port and entered the station through waste processing. The corridors were nearly empty, most security personnel drawn to the battle outside. This way, Volmar said, leading them through service tunnels he had memorized from station schematics. They encountered 2 guards at a security checkpoint. Peter moved forward, speaking in the clipped tones of station maintenance crews. Emergency repair team. Level 12 power fluctuations. The guards waved them through without question. In times of crisis, repair teams were always welcome. 3 levels up, they ran into their first real obstacle, a full security detail guarding the approach to the communication sector. We need a distraction, Jack whispered. Susan smiled. I have just the thing. She removed a small device from her pocket. Solarian sound projector. Covers 3 levels. She activated it and tossed it down a side corridor. Suddenly, alarms blared from multiple locations. The security team rushed toward the perceived threat. Now, Jack ordered. They hurried through the unguarded checkpoint and into the communication sector. The hub itself was just ahead, the heart of the Council's information network. Wait, Eridu said suddenly. Something's wrong. There are no technicians. The doors to the communication hub slid open. Inside stood Ambassador Salan, surrounded by armed guards. Welcome back, Ambassador Morrison, Salan said. We've been expecting you. How? Jack asked. Your coalition isn't as secure as you thought. Some species prefer the winning side. The Araxians can't win, Jack said. Not once everyone knows what you really are. Salan smiled, his amber skin rippling strangely. And who will tell them? You? He signaled the guards. Kill them all except the human ambassador. I want to handle him personally. The guards raised their weapons, but before they could fire, Volmar threw himself forward, tackling 2 of them. Peter drew his concealed weapon and fired at another. The device, Jack shouted to Olivia. Get it ready. As battle erupted in the confined space, Olivia and Susan worked frantically to prepare the Solarian device. Eridu protected them, using previously hidden abilities to create an energy shield. Jack fought his way toward Salan, who watched with unnatural calm. "You're too late," the Araxian said. "The council is finished. War spreads across the galaxy. We feed as never before." "Then why fight so hard to stop us?" Jack asked, advancing step by step. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Salan's face. "Now," Olivia shouted. The device was ready. Jack lunged, grabbing Salan and holding him tight as Olivia activated the device. Blinding light filled the room. Jack felt searing pain shoot through his skull as the device amplified his brainwaves to maximum intensity. Salan screamed, a sound no humanoid throat could make. His body contorted, and something emerged from the back of his neck, a writhing, multi-limbed parasite. Throughout the station, similar scenes played out as Araxian parasites lost control of their hosts. The effect spread, amplified by the communication hub systems. Jack collapsed, blood trickling from his nose and ears. The last thing he saw was Eridu rushing to the main console, broadcasting the images of exposed Araxians across all council channels. When Jack woke, 3 days had passed. He lay in a medical bay on an Earth vessel. His team surrounded his bed, faces lined with exhaustion, but eyes bright with victory. "Did it work?" he asked, his voice weak. Susan nodded. "The Araxians have been exposed. Most of their hosts have been freed. The remaining parasites are being hunted down." "The council?" Jack asked. "Gone," Volmar said, "but something new is forming. Representatives from 22 species have gathered to create a new alliance, one based on transparency and equality. They're waiting for you," Peter added. "They want Earth, and you, to help lead the way forward." Jack tried to sit up, but dizziness forced him back down. "Rest," Olivia said gently. "The neural damage is healing, but it will take time."